This will give you an idea what digital labor looks like. So I'm not a marketing company. I've never been a marketing company. I don't know anything about marketing. I mean, I know a bit because I run businesses, right? I have to know a little bit. But one of the things I've always wanted to do, because I'm like an avid YouTube watcher, I love watching content and consuming content on YouTube, is I've always wanted to start creating content for like video content. And I hired a big team of expensive people. Unicorn. I think it will happen. I think it will happen in the next 10 years, which means I think the person who's going to do that's already working on it today. Or maybe they'll start today, or maybe they'll start in a month from now. But in the next 7 to 10 years, we'll have that first company. So let me just paint a picture of what it looks like. So you want to hear something interesting? So one of the very first agents we ever built was an SEO agent, right? So basically this agentic system, I'll explain the workflow, not all the agents, and then I'll tell you the really interesting thing about the agentic system. But the workflow is pretty simple, right? It goes out onto the internet and it looks at all of our competitors and it figures out what service pages or product pages or, offerings that they've added to their website. It analyzes everything.
Hi, and welcome to the Exceptional Leverage podcast. My name is Jan, and I'm the host. Today, I have Jesse Anglen with me. Hi, Jesse.
Jan, it is awesome to be on.
Thank you. I'm, still curious, how are you doing in States in terms of AI? But before we jump into the details, I just have a question. Can you introduce yourself and what you do to the listeners?
Yeah, so I've been in future tech, the future tech category for a long time, maybe 20 years. I've always been interested in whatever the cutting edge technology is. And kind of for like a brief intro, I got my start in tech, in real estate actually, and started playing around with software development and building different applications to automate things, because automating stuff was interesting to me, as well as security and like just better ways to do stuff, right? Like everyone's always coming up with better technology. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to use that better technology to do things in a better way. And through that, I met a guy who was a client of mine. And he was really into the blockchain space. So this was 2011. He was into Bitcoin. Like he thought it was going to be the future. He actually, his plan to me was to sell all of his real estate, sell his personal house, live in a shed, and buy Bitcoin. I thought he was crazy. And and so probably a year later, 2 years later, from like 2000, it would have been 2014, it's almost 3 years later, he had made a lot of money in the blockchain space, was very influential in the blockchain space, and wanted me to come and work for him because he had just met this guy who was creating a blockchain that could actually run computer code on chain in a decentralized way called Ethereum. And he thought Ethereum was going to get big and people were going to use these, this smart code or smart contracts to do all kinds of stuff. And so he wanted me to hire developers and train them to write Solidity. And so we started that in 2014. Actually built a couple of applications that launched on the mainnet when it launched in like the middle of 2015. Some of those went viral. Did some really fun and interesting stuff in the decentralized world. And then, and I've been following AI for quite some time. I've probably been close to it for about 8 years or so. But about 3 years ago, when I read the Google paper about transformers, I was like, oh my gosh, like this thing is going to be crazy. Like the AI revolution is going to happen. I thought it was going to happen a lot faster than this, but my mind was blown. And so when OpenAI released GPT-2, it's like, oh my gosh, this is a model that has intelligence, that can think. And it's funny because people should go back and use ChatGPT-2. It can't think. It's stupid. I mean, it's really stupid. But it blew my mind. I just saw the potential and where we were going and what we were going to actually be able to do. And when 3.5 hit, I knew it was over. Like I knew this is the way that the world is going to go. And so that's like my personal journey. Through that process, I started a company called Rapid Innovation. This was five years ago now. And we basically help entrepreneurs launch MVPs with future tech. So if you have an idea to change up like your industry or to build something completely new that the world hasn't seen that's now possible because of some of this future technology, those people will get a hold of us. We'll put together a minimum viable product, get it out to the market, and then help people through that process of taking that company and turning it into something
Hmm.
epic. And I've done this. I mean, I at one point during the blockchain boom, I had 350 developers that worked for me in house,
Hmm.
and with AI doing what it's doing, I don't have to have nearly as many developers today as I used to, because developers can do 10 times more than they used to do with the same amount of time. And so the team has been refined down to really my very best engineers, all
Hmm.
working with AI, and we help people launch products into the space using future tech. And so, yeah, I don't even have to work, man. I just get to show up every single day and do something that I love to do, which you can't beat.
Yeah, yeah, you can be on my podcast, for example, or other podcasts as well.
I know. Yeah, I just get to have fun.
uh, I love it. I don't want to work. I don't need to work. That's like amazing. And just just one more thing. Like I remember GPT-2 kind of well because that was my first actual experience with AI 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago. It was built in a tool called Sonic. It was the first with Jasper, like the first
Mm-hmm.
kind of tool which used really AI, and it was GPT-2. And when you say that it actually cannot think, it can't. Because I remember when I entered my first prompt, write the blog article on whatever, let's say digital marketing, and it actually, when I read it recently, because I made it homework and I went to my old blog and I read it, and I was like, what the hell? Like, how could I publish this one? And,
Oh, dude. Well,
I was,
wasn't it amazing? Don't you remember that moment, the first time that you asked a computer to do something that normally a human does and it did it? And you're like, this is amazing. I mean, it's not compared to what we have today, but it was
yes,
like
exactly.
mind blown, most epic thing that's ever happened. It was awesome.
Yeah. And when I clicked that generated 10, I don't know, 10 tweets out of that blog post, that was amazing. Like to repurpose my content, right? To spin it
Yep.
a little bit. Like, yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah.
And rapid innovation, you say, right? That's what you are doing right now. And so why the shift from the blockchain to AI? Because you, as you said, like you saw the future and you saw the potential here, or it was something else you like really, figure out
I mean,
during the way.
so I'll give you the most honest answer, because there's kind of the like the answer that probably would go well with TV, but I'll give you the honest answer. I mean, the honest answer for the shift is because I want to be involved in understanding and knowing technology that's going to make a fundamental difference in the way that planet Earth functions.
Hmm.
Blockchain is that for assets, and so there will always probably be a place in my heart for blockchain. I love it. I love some of the technology and some of the things you can do. But blockchain is such a narrow has such a narrow use case, right? You can only do so much with assets and asset management
Hmm.
before you're just done doing everything that it can do. Like I feel like, in my what's it been 14 years in the blockchain space, like I have done about everything you can. I mean, I've helped
Hmm.
launch over 300 or actually close to 400 blockchain MVPs. I've basically done everything there is to do in blockchain. Now, is there more? Yes. Is there going to be more cool innovation? Yes.
Hmm.
But when I look at AI, what I see it doing is I see it replacing in some way
Hmm.
a multi-trillion dollar industry that we call human labor, right? Like you and I go to work and we try to create valuable things and people pay us for that value. Well, there is a future. I don't know if it's 5 years, 10 years, or 15
Hmm.
years from now, where human beings are no longer going to be paid for doing the work of creating value. Instead, human beings are going to be paid for something else. And
Hmm.
machines are going to create value for people. And so we've basically taken value creation as a commodity, and we figured out how to do that in math, right? I mean,
Hmm.
this is it's the photography boom really happening, but with human intelligence and human labor, right?
Hmm.
Photography used to be a chemistry problem. Someone figured out how to take chemistry and turn it into a math problem. And as soon as they turned it into a math problem, all of a sudden photography blew up, right? Well, we
Mm-hmm.
figured out how to take human intelligence, how to take human value creation and turn it into a math problem. I mean, this is going to fundamentally change the way that planet Earth
Mm-hmm.
works. And so I just want to be a part of that. I mean, at the end of the day, it's because I'm interested and I think this is going to be epic and amazing. And I want to be a part of that
Mm-hmm.
innovation and what people are doing in that space. And so that's why the shift. I just kind of fell out of love with blockchain and fell in love with AI because I see the potential, and
Mm-hmm.
that potential is staggering in my opinion, especially around like digital labor.
Mm-hmm. And digital labor, I'm just thinking, I have my own agency, right? I used to kind of work with, let's say, 5 to 10 other employees. They are freelancers, right? So we have freelancing contracts between each other. But when you say that you employ 350 people and now you have around 100,
Yeah,
does it
yeah, it's
mean
right
does
around
it
there.
does it mean actually that your work or work of your company is mostly digital labor now? Can we call it this way?
Yeah, I would say that you could say that 60% of what 60
Mm-hmm.
to 70% of what rapid innovation does today leverages digital labor in some way, shape, or form,
Mm-hmm.
to create the same amount, if not more, value than we were creating 3 years ago when we had a lot of humans. Because
Mm-hmm.
to be quite honest, machines are better at doing a lot of things than humans are, and they don't get sick, and they work 24 hours a day, and they only cost pennies on the dollar to create the
Mm-hmm.
same kind of value that a human being creates. And so, yeah, it's been
Okay.
transformational for my company. I mean, this is where I think
Mm-hmm.
it can be transformational for anybody's company, because you literally take one of the most anyone you've been a boss, right? I mean, anyone who's watching this who has ever managed a lot of people, I can promise you one thing: most of them, if not all of them, will tell you the number one most difficult roadblock, bottleneck, like pain in the ass, if I can say that on a podcast, part of
Yeah.
running a company is the people.
Mm-hmm.
It's always the people. If you
Yeah.
ask anyone who owns a business, like, what keeps you up at night, it's dealing with the people. Like, that's what it is. And so if you can reduce the human component to value creation by any level, it's a net win for in
Mm-hmm.
every across the board. And I think we're going to be seeing a lot more people do what I've been trying to do for the last 2.5 years, simply because you create more value for the world,
Mm-hmm.
and it's easier to create that value. And that's not even, we're not even looking at the bottom line numbers and profit, or, overhead and all of that kind of stuff. That doesn't matter. I'm just saying
Mm-hmm.
how easy it is to create value. Like, I've reduced how difficult it is to create value by 2/3. It's
Mm-hmm.
I'm now 3 times more likely to create more value over the same time period, because I've removed a lot of the bottlenecks and difficulties in
Mm-hmm.
doing that. And the people that I now have working for me today are the people that are the top 1/3 of everyone who was working in my company 3 years ago. And so their ability to create value as humans is leveraged to the
Mm-hmm.
max. Our ability as a company to create value is leveraged to the max. That's why I mean, digital labor is going to be massive in the future. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it is going to change planet Earth forever. And we're at a spot now where we can do that. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think
And
people realize how much we can do. Like, I show people some of the systems that we've created. It blows their mind because they didn't think it was actually possible. And we were creating this stuff a year ago.
And you just took out my next question from my list, because I just wanted to ask you, like, what are those like machines? Like, what are you doing actually? Because if somebody is listening like now, like, okay, it's Jesse is talking, about digital labor, like, but how can I, for example, I don't know, let's say a translation company or digital marketing agency, like, how can I leverage this technology? Like, what's behind? Can you describe it a little bit?
Dude, I'm gonna just show you something, actually, if you don't mind if I share my screen for a second. I want to show you something. So this will give you an idea what digital labor looks like. So I'm not
Uh,
a marketing company. I've never been a marketing company. I don't know anything about marketing. I mean, I know a bit because I run businesses, right? I have to know a little bit. But one of the things I've always wanted to do, because I'm like an avid YouTube watcher, I love watching content and consuming content on YouTube, is I've always wanted to start creating content for like video content.
mhm,
And I hired a big team of expensive people that went and tried to do that for a year. They never were able to create the kind of content that I was interested in.
mhm,
It was a headache and hard to manage. And so about a year ago, we started designing an agentic system that
mhm,
utilizes roughly 30 AI agents to go out and create human-like, interesting content that is valuable to people in some way, shape, or form. Um,
mhm.
and so, what I want to show you is I've got a, let's see. So
I will.
this right
Yeah.
here. So I saw this video for the first time after it was made. I'm not in the video. I didn't write the script. I didn't record anything. What happens is that an agentic system looks for topics on the internet that people are going to think are interesting inside our target market, and it creates scripts on the video, like what people are going to think is interesting. It finds footage that it can put inside the video. It writes the script, it edits everything, it puts it all together, it produces a video, and then it sends it to me and says, do you want to push this out to the world for people to see stuff? I'm getting like 1 million views on Instagram now with my
Oh
Instagram
my God.
reels on videos I've never created. And so, like, this is an example of one. I'll just play like 20 seconds so that people can see,
Yeah.
like, I mean, here I am in the flesh. This is the actual Jesse, and what you get to watch. This isn't Jesse. This is some AI creation of Jesse. Now I'll let people go watch the rest of it, but like that's not me. That's not my content. I didn't create it. Like there's probably now there are humans in the loop in the system, so there are people I have hired that watch over the system because AI will make some really bad decisions sometimes, right? And you need that
Mhm.
human intelligence, the ability to really understand what's going to connect with an audience. Like, oh yeah, you really can't, like that's not a good place to put a cut in, or that B-roll is terrible, let's not use it, or whatever that looks like, right? So there are humans in the loop inside the agentic system, but roughly 96% of the human labor is taken out of this
Mhm.
process. Um,
Okay. And can I
different
bomb you with the questions now? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, go for it. Bombard, and there's more examples of this, but this is the most visual and the
Yeah.
easiest to see.
You know, people don't know, but that we actually discussed this couple of days back. So I was observing, like heavily observing your Instagram for the couple of days, and I was trying to figure out like how the hell he's doing it. Like I'm like amazed, and when I see it now that it actually works even better when you share it, across the screen, and it's like it's really tangible. So my first question: so you say that what we just saw, and everybody who was just listening to it on Spotify, then just go to YouTube, right, and watch this podcast. But my question is, this video is fully AI generated, like 100% AI generated. That's my first question.
Yes, 100% of all of this is put together by AI. So in the B-roll
Mm-hmm.
may not be generated by AI. Like it'll go on YouTube, it'll watch
Mm-hmm.
videos to figure out where it
Mm-hmm.
wants to grab video content from. It'll cut that video content out so that it can add it as an asset to the video. So like some of the stuff that you're watching that is B-roll or things like that, some of that might be created by or
Mm-hmm.
might have been found by it on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it we're going to use, like Pika 2 or Runway or different things and actually generate B-roll, like
Mm-hmm.
text to, prompt to video. And then some of it might just be stock footage that we've given it access to that it can go grab and pull it in.
Mm-hmm.
But the AI is making the decisions about what to pull in and how and where to find it and all of that stuff. The avatar, so the me that's in there,
Mm-hmm.
is a model of me that moves
Mm-hmm.
its mouth when it's given an audio file. Then the actual like the actual script is written by an AI. It's then passed off to pull in the audio from an audio model. The audio model feeds it to the video avatar and creates the video. All of those assets are then given to an agentic system that takes and puts it all together into an actual video, like basically does the video editing. And at that point, it's handed off to a human to look at it and go, this isn't quite right. This isn't quite right. Make those adjustments. And then it goes on to post processing and finishes it, sends it to me on Slack so that I can watch it and make sure that I actually want it to go out. Because, and I'll tell you a funny story. When we first started doing this, I was going on a walk with my wife, and we're talking about something. She looks at me and she's like, "You don't actually believe that, do you?" And I was like, it was out of context. It was weird. It's like she had something on her mind. I'm like, "Believe what?" She said, "Well, you posted a video this morning where you were," and here's the thing, I didn't take the time to watch the video that went out on YouTube. And my wife, who I've been married to for 20 years, thought it was me. And like was completely convinced I had created this video, and the script wasn't very good. You can go back and find it if you look back, 6 months. The script wasn't very good, and it was stating some BS that I would have never said. And so she knew that the content didn't sound like me, but she was convinced that it was me that put out the video. And that's when I realized, like, man, this is going to work. Like, if we continue to refine the system, we're going to create really good content that people actually can't tell isn't human. And I think we've almost gotten there. I mean, there's some stuff that you can tell every once in a while. You're like, oh yeah, that's AI generated. But for the most part, 99% of people are going to think that is created by a team of humans who are actually pretty good at putting together videos.
And to be honest, I watched the latest, 5-6 videos for sure, even today. And I don't really care because it actually conveys the message. It has value. It's not AI generated content when you have 6 fingers, moving from the left to the right, or, vibrating the teeth or something. It still has value. And that's probably more important than if the question, was it AI generated or not? So for me, I am all in, right? And that's leading to my second question, like, can I use this agentic system as well? Can I generate my own content from you? Like, can I buy it simply?
Yes. So we are actually releasing a version of this to the public called Cine AI. I believe actually if people want to go there, it's like cinema. So CINI.ai and get on the wait list. We'll probably have it ready to like hit the public in, I don't know, maybe a week or two, something along those lines.
Okay, so it's coming.
The problem that I'm having with it is very simple. And this is where human beings are going to remain valuable for a long time. When I say that 96% of the labor that went into creating that video is AI, that's true. But oftentimes that 4% that is left over that a human being takes a look at and really refines and puts the final touches on makes a way bigger difference than most people think. Because it's that kind of fine tuning of the content that you're like, oh yeah, that is way better. Like for instance, the AI model, it might pronounce numbers wrong, right? Because it didn't get the script right. And so instead of saying 100,000, it will be 100,000 dollars. And it's like, oh, that's weird, right? And so you want to actually go in and correct that so that it doesn't interrupt you in the middle of the video and make you feel funny and everything else. And so the difficult thing about trying to make it 100% AI generated is that you have to limit kind of the scope of what it can do, and the quality ends up being just a little bit less. And so probably what we'll do is we're going to release that as like a public beta to the world with just free video generation for right now, because it doesn't really cost us very much to even run this thing. And then we'll have a service where maybe you generate the videos and they'll go through a human team for those final, for that final piece. Maybe we'll do something like that, or just continue working on the technology till it actually gets to where we want it to be, which will be, 3-6 months from now, something along those lines. But yes, it is coming, and people will be
Okay,
able to
cool.
use it under that domain.
Uh, Perfect. Thank you very much. I was just thinking like, okay, like maybe I will sign up for the waitlist for sure. I will be like right after we finish the podcast, I will be there, like entering my email. But my question is like, maybe I can just really generate it and send it to my editor, sending
Yeah.
regards to Mikowai, who is actually helping me with my podcast for a couple of months already. So maybe I can just send it to him, right? And he will polish it, as you say, those 4%, and it's still better than create everything from scratch, write the
Yep.
scripts. Yeah, I was trying today, for example, to clone my voice with 11 Labs.
Oh, don't use
That
11
is
Labs. I'll give you a tip. And for everyone
okay.
listening, go use PlayHT.
Play.
PlayHT's version 3 model is so much
Mhm,
better, and actually give it the full amount of audio. And here's the
mhm,
thing, like I've noticed, because I've made a ton of voice clones now because I'm trying to
mhm,
figure out which tool is going to work the best and all that stuff. We've
mhm,
even played around with our own models internally. PlayHT really does work the best of
mhm,
all of them. It is better than 11 Labs at human sounding speech. 11 Labs
mhm,
sounds too polished. It's too perfect, right? Like
mhm,
you and I are talking
mhm,
right now. If we were talking, if we sounded as good as 11 Labs, people would be like, "Oh, that's not even real. Like those guys are fake." And
yeah.
PlayHT kind of adds that hesitation when talking, the weird pausing, the verbal clutter, the kind of funny laughs and the inflections at the right time. It just does a much
Mhm,
better job than 11 Labs.
mhm.
So I would not use 11 Labs personally.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. That's a good tip. And you know what? I just reminded and recalled myself that in 2019, I had an online magazine called Ediblorial. It was a test. I wanted to try and test out SEO. So I was like
Mm-hmm.
learning digital marketing, and I created the first audio versions of my podcast, and it's actually Play HT. That's the like green and white actually website, right? And logo, if I'm not
It,
mistaken. So
I
actually,
think
I
they
used
probably rebranded since then.
rebranded meanwhile,
Yeah,
but it's still like
possibly.
7 years ago, and they are on the top of the game still. Okay,
Oh yeah.
that's
Well, and not
pretty
only are they
interesting.
on top of their game, like there's no comparison between 11 Labs and PlayHT. Like
Okay.
PlayHT is, I mean, that's what you were listening to in that video we were just watching. That's
Mm-hmm.
PlayHT. If you go listen to my 11 Labs model trained on the
Mm-hmm.
exact same data,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know, it just sounds like an AI made it. Maybe most
Mm-hmm.
people wouldn't notice, but it's kind of in that
Mm-hmm.
uncanny valley, right? Where you can, like, something's wrong with that. Like, like now that I'm in the AI space, every once in a while, I'm like watching a video, I'm like, man, like something's wrong with that. Like the voice is wrong or something's wrong, right? There's just that something wrong with 11 Labs. It's too perfect.
Okay, I
And
need to
so
compare those. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I would definitely go look at it. But anyways, I'm sorry to interrupt. Keep going with your story. So you were repurposing your SEO content.
Yeah, exactly. With the audio, actually, versions of my blogs, which were written that time still by me. That was no AI in 2018 which could help. So I was writing everything and doing 6 hours of research on that time. Oh my god, it was even Starlink was just in diapers. They were like sending the first satellites up, and now they have thousands of them. So yeah, that was 2018. My beginnings with digital marketing and stuff like that. But back to the topic we were discussing, like tool you have, that's fine. And the prices. Oh, that's the third question I wanted to ask. Like, can you share like how expensive actually, what's the cost of video like this
Yeah.
from your side,
So
right? Like, because, yeah.
yes, I guess I'll be probably more transparent than I ought to be, but for me to create, let's say, a video a day with the agentic
Mm-hmm.
system and the human labor, like
Mm-hmm.
all of the cost included, it probably costs me about for let's see, so more than one video a day. Actually, it's let's say total amount of content per day in minutes. Let's do it that way. So about 5 minutes of content per day with the
Mm-hmm.
humans in the loop probably cost me about $400 US a month,
Mm-hmm.
give or
Month.
take. Maybe
Okay.
three
Mm-hmm.
fifty, something along those
Okay.
lines.
Okay. So it's 150 minutes. Okay. That's like, this is just what, $3 per minute? Let's calculate this way roughly. 350 maybe, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Um, Yeah,
Yeah.
probably something along those
Okay.
lines. Yeah, probably three
That's
dollars a minute is probably
that's
something along
definitely
those
a
lines.
reasonable price. Yeah, I thought that you will say $400 per video. That would
Oh, no,
be.
no, no. I mean, one of the things that so we looked at, like, I have my comparison with my human team, and
Hmm.
I calculated it out per minute how much that
Hmm.
was costing me to
Hmm.
create videos, which I won't even say the number here. But it was very, very expensive per minute. Like, I mean, you end up paying people a lot of money, and they weren't doing
Hmm.
as good of a job, in my
Hmm.
opinion, as what the AI can do. And so, I mean, well, actually, I will say I mean, it's roughly $30 a minute when you hire a team, have them do the
Hmm.
research manually, have them
Hmm.
record the videos manually, edit the videos manually. Like, when you have a team do everything of humans from start to finish, it ends up being roughly $30 to $40 a minute. And so
Hmm.
this is about a 90%, 90 to 92% decrease in the amount of money that it costs to deliver more value. That's the thing that's crazy to me,
Hmm.
is it's not
Hmm.
apples for apples. Like,
Yeah.
you can go back on the YouTube channel and look back several years and see what the content looked like 2 years ago, and then look at what we're producing today, and you'll just be able to
Hmm.
tell, like, it's way better today than it
Hmm.
was back then. And that's human versus I mean,
Hmm.
it's incredible to me.
Yeah. Exactly, and my brain is just running now some numbers and some business plans already. So I think we will take this offline because I would like to go back to this topic, and maybe you can help me build my MVP then here in Europe, because you are, I take states as ahead, as the rest of the world with technology. And we will
Yeah.
come to China in a
Maybe
bit.
everyone but China. We're certainly ahead of Europe. That is
Yeah,
true. Because you
and
guys
that's true.
regulate, Europe
Oh my god.
regulates the daylights of everything. You guys can't hardly breathe over there without getting regulated. So,
Okay.
of course, you're not going to be able to
Uh,
do AI.
Exactly. I still don't have Apple Intelligence on my new iPhone. So yeah,
Yes.
uh, so it's regulated a lot, as you say.
Yes.
But still, going back, I believe that it will come. Maybe some regulations will be like released, and they will
Yeah.
have to change something here in Europe, because otherwise we will be like really ending up in a deep, I don't know where. But still, let's take this as a business plan and a collaboration. And can we now just redirect a little bit the attention to, can you speak about the case with this $1 billion company, like that there might be, we will live in a world where where we actually, anybody who's listening, can build a $1 billion company just by himself or herself. Is that true?
In less than 5 years. The
In
unicorn,
less
right?
than
The idea
five
of
years
a one human unicorn. I think it will happen. I think it
Hmm.
will happen
Hmm.
in the next 10 years, which means I think the person who's going to do that's already working on it today.
Hmm.
Or maybe they'll start today, or maybe they'll start in a month from now. But in the next 7 to 10 years, we'll have that first company. So let me just paint a picture of what it
Hmm.
looks like, because it's not a fantasy. Like, this is not science fiction. Like, it could happen today. Like, it actually, it might be the first person who did this started a year ago, and in 4 years from now, we'll see who they are.
Hmm.
Because the technology has existed to do this for quite some time. Um, but the idea is simple, right? It goes back to this umbrella term of digital labor. I've got a client right now, and what he's doing is he started a company by himself. Every time he needs an employee, he calls me up and says, "Hey, Jesse, I need an HR gal." But I'm not a recruiter, right? We're a
Hmm.
development shop. So what we do is we build him a digital HR person that does all of his HR. And it's got a relatively complex structure, multi-agent structure, right? And then
Hmm.
as he uses it, he finds out where it's lacking and where it's not, and we continue to make improvements. But his goal is to build a company and have that entire company and never hire another human. He wants to build the entire thing and have
Hmm.
every, from sales, HR, operations, customer service, every single aspect of that company is going to be driven by AI, multimodal AI. And so maybe he's the guy who's building that $1 billion
Hmm.
unicorn. Could be. If that's the case, then we're about 4.5 years from now, we'll have a $1 billion unicorn. Uh, but if you think about the power of being able to take decision making, which is inherently human, um, and the ability to get work done that let's just call it value creation, like to build
Hmm.
these agentic systems, whatever you want to call them, a digital workforce, digital labor, digital employees, AI agents. Like people have lots of terms for this, right? But it really, what we're talking about is the ability to take a computer that has a that uses math to create value for humans.
Hmm.
um, and that's what a business is made up of. It doesn't matter who you are inside the business. Your job is to help create value for other humans. That's where the $1 billion comes from in less than 5 years. If you do that and you leverage AI to do it, you start building employees that are actually doing
Hmm.
work for you. They're cold calling, maybe they're SDRs, maybe they're creating estimations, maybe they're helping onboard people, answering people's questions, writing the code for for your application, creating widgets, creating blog articles, creating video content. Doesn't
Hmm.
matter what it is. Like you start building the AI agents that are doing this, what you end up with is a company that runs at roughly 3 to 5% of the cost of a human company.
Hmm.
And whoever's running it provides the humanity that's necessary, right? Like from a human to a human, I know what creates value. I provide the vision, I provide, the goals, where we're going, what we're trying to accomplish. And so that one human, as a visionary and as someone who wants to create value for the company, they just send out a swarm of AI agents or this digital workforce to go get all the work done to do it. And you're really limited then by our ability to utilize the technology to do it and our ability to tell it what to do.
Hmm.
Because at the end of the day, it can really only do what it's told, and it can only create the value that it's told. And so I'm convinced that someone's going to do it. Now, it won't be me, probably, because I'm a social person and I like hanging out with people. So I'm always going to have a couple of employees. Um, but there's that introverted guy who just wants to get stuff done, who's going to
Hmm.
start this company or has already or will in the next couple of years. I mean, maybe it's you.
Maybe. As I said, I don't employ full-time employees for now because I believe in also a little bit higher costs here in Poland, so it's not the
Yes.
cheapest one to hire. But still, I can just imagine, just see that I would automate the hell out of everything. Like when I
I mean,
listen to people like you, like yeah, I would change every single. Just today, I spent 3 hours of preparing some cost calculation for a client. If that could be done by agentic, like process and program, which could
yep.
run it in 5 minutes, I can take those 3 hours and play golf, for example, or I don't know, just
Yeah. Or
hang
build a
out.
bigger company, help more
Oh, be a
people. Like,
bigger
I mean,
company. Correct.
because our process for estimating projects, because it's complicated, right? When you do software development,
Hmm.
there's a lot of moving parts. And sometimes
Hmm.
these projects come in, they're really complex and really long. And like, it takes a lot of thinking to understand how much time it's going to take. And you can't really give someone a price until you understand what they want and how much time it's going to take and what the
Hmm.
results are going to be, right? Everything you need to sell someone value in whatever your process is, you have to actually have that information. Otherwise, you're just throwing numbers to the wind. And so we created an agentic system that actually, in theory, our clients can talk directly to the agentic system. So it doesn't ever
Hmm.
have to interact with a human being. The agentic system will gather all of the customer requirements. It will then feed that to like a PRD or like a request for proposal system, right? That actually creates a like a requirements doc, a features doc. Like it puts together the entire development plan from start to finish, how many people are going to be doing it, what people are needed, um, like every aspect of the project in its minute detail. And then it hands it to our estimating agentic system that goes through, looks at it, looks at our HR software, figures out what people are available, and
Hmm.
says, okay, I can put these people on this project for X amount of time. We need this much out of it for marketing, this much for overhead, this much for labor margin. Your cost is going to be X amount of dollars. Then that hands all of that information to our proposal agent that takes all of that, puts it into a fully custom proposal that is written for that client, spits out the other end, gives it to the salesperson. And so at the end of the day, the salesperson could literally go to a closing appointment with a
Hmm.
client that has never talked to a human at Rapid Innovation, because
Hmm.
the only thing that person has ever interacted with is this agentic system. And all of it's done for, I mean, for free as far as human time is concerned. And
Hmm.
dude, that took a 2 week process. Like it was 2 to 3 weeks for us to get back to someone with the price. Multiple conversations with them, like
Hmm.
lots of discovery and trying to understand what they want, and sometimes even longer, sometimes 4 weeks. It took that entire thing that turned it into a
Hmm.
process. Like that agentic system will run for between 60 and 90 minutes.
Hmm.
And so 3 weeks, an hour. Like that is a huge, and zero people. I mean, that's a huge, huge
That's
time savings and money savings and value. Like it's just awesome. And I see systems like that we're playing with and building, and I think, man, how could the world not change? Like how could it
hmm.
not? It has to change. It has to. There's no way that this doesn't just change things forever.
That's unbelievable, and this is exactly why I record this podcast, so I can gather information and share it with the world, because I believe that the world already changed. You are saying that are already using agenting systems, right, in real life. And just a couple of months back, I think it was actually Bill Gates who said, in 5 years we will be able, or we will live in a world where systems will, or agents will call or talk between each other. And you are using it now today, just a few months after Bill Gates said that it will take out years, and you are using it for real business, right? So it's
Well,
something like
dude, you want to
insider's
hear?
job.
So you want to hear something interesting? So one of the very first agents we ever built was an SEO agent, right? So basically, this agentic system, I'll explain the workflow, not all the agents, and then I'll tell you the
Mhm.
really interesting thing about the agentic system. But the workflow is pretty simple, right? It goes out onto the internet and it looks at all of our competitors and it figures out what service pages or product pages or offerings that they've added to their website. It analyzes everything, looks at our website and says, are we missing out on SEO opportunity? Once it's done all of that analysis, it comes back with 900 pages, and it says, "Oh, of these 900 pages, we should probably build 7 of them."
Mhm.
And and so then it goes through and it creates all the content, starts creating the service page, deploys that to the website, creates a bunch of blog articles, and starts pushing those blog articles out, and like this whole thing kind of just runs. And that's why, like, I can rank for a new keyword if I go to that system and I say I want to rank for digital labor. 3 months later, I will be on the first page of Google globally for digital labor, and I will never lift a finger to do anything, nothing. And this one is 100% automated. There's no people at all involved. What's interesting is, and this is the interesting thing about the system,
Mhm.
you can watch it work, right? Because if you go and it's working, you can basically just log into the terminal and watch these agents, and they fight. They'll talk to each other. The boss will fire agents that are doing a bad job by basically deleting them. Like, oh no, you suck. It'll delete them and it'll rewrite their prompts and spin another agent up, train it, and then send it out to go do the work. Like if it gets a bad copyright, it'll be like, this copy sucks. You have one more chance. And it'll actually say that, like,
Oh
this
my.
copy's not good enough. You have one more chance. And if you don't do it, I'm going to fire you. And then it comes back. It's like, no, it's still not what this still doesn't conform to the guidelines of what I asked you to do, and it'll just delete it. Boom, like agent gone, and then it'll make another one, give them the same task, right? And so the thing is just, and they're like, they have conversations with each other. Like that is a
Mhm.
system where AI agents are actually talking to each other, like you and I are talking, collaborating just like any employees would, and
Mhm.
creating these service pages and blog articles for my website. It's nuts to watch. I mean, it'll trip you out. It's crazy because it's like I don't. It's like nothing else I've ever seen. In some ways, it's like a little tiny community of employees that are working for you, and they'll have little conversations. They'll have fights. Like they'll actually argue with each other and get into fights. Like one guy will be like, "No, I think this is the article that we need to write," when it's doing the headlines, and the boss will be like, "No, you're stupid. Like none of those are going to work. Think about our main goal." And this one will be like, "No, I can't work for you." And like they actually will like have real conversations. It's crazy. It's the trippiest thing you've ever seen.
And just
Like
out of curiosity, and sorry to interrupt, like,
no,
but how does it actually communicate between each other on such a level? Like, is it like self-fault, or is it like assisted learning, or just they just figured it
no,
out
this is
themselves?
this is this is just So they're all guided by these goals, right? Like they're all
Hmm.
trying to meet certain goals. So in the case of like they need to rank for a certain page. So
Hmm.
they're actually looking at the rankings for those keywords. They're going out, they're searching, they're figuring out, are we ranking on Google for these keywords? No, we're not. And then the boss will get
Hmm.
angry, go back and be like, not even angry,
Okay.
like, hey guys, we need to do better. We have to create more articles. Like here, let's create this new blog article. It needs to be longer, it needs to be shorter, it needs to be with this content. This is where the traffic's at. I mean, they just kind of talk to each other like we would. And it's all token in, token out, like
Hmm.
the output tokens for this agent become the input tokens for
Yep.
this agent. It
Hmm.
creates better output tokens that become input tokens for this agent. And it just all kind of
Hmm.
works. I mean, it's not entirely different than how human beings, and that's
Hmm.
without a reasoning model. Like these are not
Hmm.
even thinking models. These are just AI
Hmm.
agents that are working together. They're not even thinking. They're just vomiting tokens out one end while consuming tokens on the other and getting meaningful work done to rank us for keywords that I want to rank us for. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. And I feel like, in some Orwellian movie or something, because it's just like mind blowing to me because I work with this stuff. I know how much time it takes to analyze competition. I know how much time it takes to look
Sin.
into rankings and then figure out
I
like, how
don't.
can we beat this competitor? Oh, you don't, you see?
I don't.
But
I don't know
still.
anything about it. I just go tell the system, please rank me for this keyword. Then it was funny because I was frustrated one time because I wanted to rank for this relatively competitive keyword. It was like we were like 2 months in and we are like on page 2 of Google. And I'm like, guys, what in the world is taking so long? Like why aren't we ranking? And the guy that was running the system's like, Jesse, you do know most people have an expectation of ranking after 9 months. Like the
Mhm.
fact that I rank you for anything in 3 months is really good. And the fact that I rank you for a lot of things in 2 months or 1 month is
Mhm.
unheard of. This system is doing really well. Have patience.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, and I started looking into it. I'm like, that can't be true. It takes 9 months to rank a keyword. That's ridiculous. And I started looking, it can take 9 months or longer
Hmm.
to rank for certain keywords. And it's competitive and hard. And I realized, like, oh, wow, like this system is really cool. Like it actually works
Hmm.
really well. Um,
Hmm.
but I
And I
don't know
want
how it
that.
works. It's all magic for me. I just
It doesn't really
build
matter.
the
Just
keywords.
sell it to me on a reasonable price, or let's license it and franchise it or whatever. I will just, yeah, I can use that for sure.
Well, you could probably improve it too, because on some levels, it was a bunch of programmers that built it. They're not marketing people. They don't even really know. Like, the thing
Hmm.
that's dumb about what I'm doing is, in some ways, is a lot of the internal tools we're building. Instead of hiring marketing people and building the tools, I've hired AI people, and they're building the tools. So
Hmm.
they're like beginners when it comes to SEO ranking. They're learning on the fly, and they're more interested in building the agentic system. So there's probably even things that are wrong or not efficient with the stuff that we are building. Um, the
Hmm.
one exception to that is the video side of it. I do have some guys on that team that are phenomenal
Hmm.
creators, that are helping with it. But for the SEO, for for a lot of the stuff we're doing on the marketing side, we're just kind of
Hmm.
playing because why not? And it's getting us
That's
results, so might as well.
and that's very important. What you just said, like, yeah, it has results because it's not just fluff and whatever, but it really works, right?
Yes.
And when we talk a little bit about China and technology and so on, like you started with AI a couple of years back, right? As you said. And you see also many changes, like how it all changes and develop in a different world. Yes, United States are ahead of the game and so on, but still Chinese are knocking on the door, right? Just recently, there is this new AI called DeepSeek, and I would like to ask you, not for about the DeepSeek in general, we will come to this one later, but like how do you see in your daily work, like are you just based on tools and solutions from states, or you also use overseas solutions?
I mean, I pay for so many. My finance guy got a hold of me
Hmm.
the other day. He's like, "What in the world is all this stuff on the credit card?" Because I pay for a subscription for basically every single AI model that
Okay.
you can pay for a subscription for.
Okay. Hmm.
And so I use them all, and I use them all regularly. I tend to gravitate towards newer stuff. So whenever anyone puts out a new model, I'll go use it. I love DeepSeek. Like, so I
Mm-hmm.
specifically the reasoning model, when that came out 2 weeks ago or week and a half ago, whatever it was, and I started using it. I just love the fact that you can watch it reason. Right? I know it's not the first time that an AI that you could watch an AI model reason, because Llama's done some like that. Meta's doing some good research as well, but we haven't seen one that could reason at the same level as like the O1 Pro reasoner, the
Mm-hmm.
$200 a month OpenAI,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
primo subscription model. And it was just fun to watch it think. And it also actually improved my prompt engineering a lot, because I could
Mm-hmm.
see how it was deciding that it was going to create the tokens it was going to create.
Mm-hmm.
And then it would guide my prompt engineering to make better prompts, to have better outputs, which was awesome. But I mean, for me, I'm a daily user of all of them. I think, like,
Mm-hmm.
if I want to do something that requires a lot of logic and a lot of thinking through and like kind of logical flow stuff, I'm going to go with like O1 Pro Reasoner or DeepSeek R1. I prefer DeepSeek R1, to be quite honest, because it's easier to
Mm-hmm.
engineer the prompting with it. Um, if I want to go write really, really good content, I'm
Mm-hmm.
probably or I'm probably going to go with Claude, because Claude is
Mm-hmm.
probably the best writer of all of them. I don't really play with Google stuff very much, unless I have, like, we've got some stuff that requires like a lot of context. So if I have a massive context window, I might go use some Gemini, because they've got
Mm-hmm.
models that can consume, a million tokens of context.
Mm-hmm.
And so I use a combination of a lot of different models on a regular basis, depending on what I need. Um, but then when anything new comes out, like when DeepSeek V3 came out a month ago, or more than a month ago, whenever it was, like, that was so much fun to play with, just because
Mm-hmm.
it was so, like, how they architected it. It was so much less expensive to use, which the cost doesn't really, I don't really care that much, but it was crazy. Like, I could send it 1,000 requests and get 1,000, like, get millions and millions of tokens back, and it would be 80 cents. You do
Mm-hmm.
the same thing using like the O1 or the flagship model for OpenAI, and it'd be
Mm-hmm.
like $100, or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. I mean, it ended up being, it's not quite, I think I over exaggerate, because I think it ended up being about 48 times cheaper uh,
It's
than OpenAI's to run. And so it's just crazy. And it's good too. I mean, it really impressed me. The research those guys did to create those models is
mm-hmm.
really impressive. Like, they were really smart, way smarter than I could ever hope to be, I'm sure, from a math perspective, at least, and a logic perspective.
But still, the question is, you say that like they did a really good research, but just it was today when I was just reading an article that OpenAI is actually suing DeepSeek for using OpenAI models to train their model. So, like,
I mean, it
where
is
is
against
this
their terms and
smartness in it?
it's against their terms and conditions. But you know what I think is funny about this? Here's what I think is funny about it. So OpenAI goes and steals everyone's data on the planet, everyone's data. They use that data to create a piece of software that they then
Mm,
charge the people to use. Right? So every article that you have ever written in your entire marketing career, they stole from you. And then if you want to go use OpenAI, they charge you $20 a month to use it, even though it's technically trained on your data, right? So
mhm,
I just find it ironic and funny that OpenAI is all angry because DeepSeek went in and used the data they stole, to go and make their model smart, and now they're whining about it. Um, it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. The truth is, DeepSeek did
mhm,
go and use their model to
mhm,
do their distillation, which was smart. I mean, that was the way I would do it. It's a good way to do it. It's like very, very smart. Um, what I think is funny is the narrative that people are trying to say that, oh, that means that the OpenAI model is better.
mhm,
It's like, no, 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 no. That is not how that works. I mean, I guarantee you that there's a bunch of really smart people at OpenAI right now who read the same research paper that I did, that are like,
mhm,
oh my gosh, this is amazing. We're going to do it and then charge money for it.
mhm.
And they're just upset because they can't, charge money for the newest, latest, greatest technology, because these guys gave it away to the world for free on a platter. Thank you very much. But it's
And
just the whole situation is funny to me on that side of it, and that's what everyone's talking about. What's crazy is those guys put together a model that is able to run on what I mean, it's let's say it's so it's if it's 48 times better inference, which is probably what it is, like then that means that, well, for instance, I can run, like I use a Mac Mini, like a tiny little Mac Mini for my workstation. Here, I can run their 32 billion parameter model just fine on my Mac Mini, and run it locally. Never even make a call outside the internet. Like, just run it on my local machine. That's insane, that you can have the kind of performance that, I mean, OpenAI, their model that does the same, like it kind of is the equivalent to that 32 billion parameter model. I bet you that model has to be, they don't publish the weights and stuff, but it has to be I bet you it's 500 billion parameters. And so they've reduced the size of the model and kept the same fidelity on the intelligence. And they've reduced the model by just, it's crazy to me. It's crazy to me, the research that they did and what they put into it. And I think that's why OpenAI is upset, is because China did beat us. Like, not from a stealing standpoint, and it doesn't matter. Maybe they are lying about GPUs. Doesn't matter. Maybe they've stolen all of the data from OpenAI. Doesn't matter. OpenAI also stole all of the data from everybody else. So it doesn't matter where they got the data. It doesn't matter how many GPUs they have and all of that stuff. They were able to create a model that was so efficient that you could run it on a local computer. I mean, I can quite literally, it's 48 times less expensive to get a token out of it. 48 times. And that's at the same fidelity of information as OpenAI's flagship top of the line best model that probably requires 20,000 H100s to run. And to me, that's just insane. Like, that's really, really good engineering. And so I'm super excited for it. I think it'll take the world to a whole new level on what these models can do. It'll be interesting to see if OpenAI winds their way to the top, because what they should do is they should say, thank you very much. And they should tell the world ChatGPT, 3 or 4 or 5 is going to be way better than you expected, because DeepSeek did some really good work. And then they should take the work that they did, apply it to their proprietary stuff, and continue down the road. I mean, to me, that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. And you say that they beat us, like this is a quote from you. I am not surprised. There is this guy called Kai-Fu Lee. Kai-Fu Lee is a former CEO of Google China. He worked with the best brands. He's also an owner of, it's called 01 AI. That's his startup. It's also a unicorn already, evaluation like above 1 billion, 1.2, I think, $billion. And Kai-Fu Lee wrote a book called AI Superpowers in 2018, which is 7 years ago. And he actually said that with the amount of talent, with the amount of money China is actually getting, there will be on the top of AI in a couple of years. And it happened. But, not everybody is reading books probably on AI from Chinese writers. And I did my homework. So I read it. And I'm not surprised. I'm actually cheering for them, to be honest. Aside all those shady stuff which is going on. But from the technology point of view, I'm cheering because finally somebody did it.
Yes. Hey, it's because Europe doesn't have a team. That's why. There's really only 2 teams.
Okay. We are on a sidewalk, yeah. Europe is really down in the basement.
I would like the US to win. I think that that's awesome. But at the end of the day, I think that what I like most about what they did is that they published it. Like, they open sourced it. That was a little bit of a slap in the face to OpenAI, I think. Like, I think that Sam Altman got his feelings hurt because they did really good research. And then they said, hey, world, even though, this is not what we do for a day job, and even though we came up with something that was really, really awesome that we could probably make a lot of money with, here, take it. It's you guys, you can play with it. And honestly, OpenAI should be a little bit ashamed of the position that they've taken on the for-profit side of this. I mean, I understand that they have
Mhm.
investors and all of those
Yeah.
other things, but the truth is, we should be collaborating globally to try to make the world a better place for people like me and you who don't really
Mhm.
care about having lots of power and all of the
Mhm.
other things that all of these other people seem to care about. And we should just make the world a better place for people. Like
Mhm.
we should solve world hunger, we should fix cancer, we should do all these things. Like, let's not fight with each other, let's work together, build a really really intelligent machine that actually assists humanity in becoming a better place to live, instead of
Mhm.
whatever this is going to turn into. But it'll be what it'll be, because the world is the world and people are people.
Yeah, but still, I would like to close this podcast on a good note. So, Jesse Anglen was my host guest today. So, Jesse, thank you very much for your wisdom. I still believe, and I can be pretty sure that it is not the last time we talk to each other online in a podcast or a webinar or whatever roundup call. So, thank you very much for the discussion. I really enjoyed it. A lot of value, a lot of information and inspiration from your side.
Jan, thanks for having me, man. Fun conversation. I love talking about this stuff, and luckily I get to do it for a living, so it's a win-win-win.
Exactly. Thank you. Take care.